At 10 years old, my parents were divorced when I was 2, and so I moved to Arizona, and my dad used to call every Christmas. And you picture your parents are supposed to be there to support you, right? And especially someone who's successful and wants to help you out. I got a call one Christmas, and it was my dad. I was 10 years old, and he basically said, Robert, you're basically at the point where you're able to understand that you're probably going to be living off the government. You're not going to be successful. You'll have a decent job, maybe. And I kind of
Hi, my name is Jacob Hanley. I'm the co-founder and CEO of eTask.
And I'm Robert Johnson. I'm the co-founder and vice president of eTask.
This is the first episode we're uploading on the eTask YouTube channel, and there's a lot we're going to talk about. We're going to bring a lot of mentors on and have a lot of conversations and interviews. So this first episode we're filming here today, we want to talk about what entrepreneurship means to Robert and I. So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth on what it means to us personally, and then kind of go on our one-on-one takes on what we think entrepreneurship is to us, and kind of get into the details of it, how it's not as glamorous as it seems, and there's a lot of, you have to endure a lot to get to the end game and actually see the payoff for it. And any successful entrepreneur will tell you that it's, you start very low and you have to climb very slowly for a very long time. The climb isn't always painless, and it's a lot of work before you reach the top. I ask you, Robert, what does entrepreneurship mean to you?
Well, entrepreneurship means you have the opportunity to innovate and put something into perspective that you've always wanted to create. And you won't necessarily change the world, but you'll still make an impact. No matter what it is that you're making, you'll still put that vision that you've had at the very beginning into reality, and build a community and build a place where people can collaborate with what your dream is.
What started you on entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's a couple of things really. It's the fact that I'm a good worker. I think that my mindset is I'm a very focused person, but I could never really see myself working for someone else, right? And it's I'm always the kind of person to critique certain things and put new things into play, and find better ways to do things. And I could never do that in the work environment, So when I put that into the whole entrepreneurial thought process, it just seemed a lot more. It just seemed a lot easier for me to do and put in place, rather than just have someone tell me what to do because that's their job.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say your first venture was in entrepreneurship, whether it's starting a lemonade stand when you were 10 years old, or what was your first kind of entrepreneurial bug sign?
Well, it's my dad runs a yacht servicing company in Boca Raton, Florida, and he's been really successful at it. And at 10 years old, my parents were divorced when I was 2, and so I moved to Arizona, and my dad used to call every Christmas. And you picture your parents are supposed to be there to support you, right? And especially someone who's successful and wants to help you out. I got a call one Christmas, and it was my dad. I was 10 years old, and he basically said, Robert, you're basically at the point where you're able to understand that you're probably going to be living off the government. You're not going to be successful. You'll have a decent job, maybe. And I kind of looked at that and kind of like, what do you think at 10? Your own dad is telling you this, and especially someone who's successful that can give you mentorship and advice and help and support. My dad didn't do that, so I kind of had that fire build up inside me that wanted to prove him wrong, and not for the fact that I wanted those things for myself. He had the nice house, the nice cars, but not only that, it was to prove him wrong and to prove myself right, and do something for myself and not just live my life, with someone telling me what to do. Yeah. And just have that mental freedom of doing what you want to do, and just kind of have that experience set.
Yeah, when you bring that up, I think every entrepreneur can relate to that on some level. Whether their experience was as bad as that, better than that, or worse than that. Right. In my case, my family, I was failing out of high school sophomore year, and We were broke, bankrupt, living in a 200 square foot trailer in Punta Gorda, Florida. Didn't have food on our shelves. We had nothing. We didn't have phones. We didn't have internet. We had nothing. And that was a pivotal time in my life because I remember how helpless I felt and how in my head I thought maybe if I tried harder, if I had more money, if I could make money, I could help this, I could control this, and I could do something about this for my family and not just be so stuck and helpless. You know, and I was probably like 14, 15 years old at that time. And, you know, as life went on and I kind of found my way, you know, I've learned that, you know, you find a reason to light a fire in yourself. You see why you're doing what you're doing, and it starts to make sense, you know. You know, when you do things in the moment that don't make sense, but as time goes on, they have purpose behind them.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I've learned is, you know, at the time, after I left high school due to my grades and moving and a plethora of other reasons, you know, I started a business not to make money, not to prove anybody wrong, not to do anything materialistic. I proved a business because I started a business because I was bored. Nothing more. I had a lot of time on my hands. I was working 9 to 5 at a supermarket for $7 an hour. You know, I had nothing but time, and that's kind of what led to my first real creation and profitable business.
Right. And it's probably the only way up there is up.
Yeah.
You have no other option.
Well, you know, I forget who said this, but one of the things I talk about is, you know, when you're at your lowest point, you rise from the ashes. You can't go any lower. All you can go is up once you hit rock bottom. You know, but my entrepreneurial bug, you know, the first time I witnessed it was probably about 10 years old. I was living here in Colorado, and I was 10, and I had a neighbor next door, and he and I had a bunch of old games, video games for computer and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1, and a bunch of toys that we didn't use anymore. We were 10 years old, and I remember we wanted to make money because we wanted the new Sims for the computer. And so we went to the street corner at the end of our cul-de-sac, and we got all those toys, all those games, and all those controllers and stuff, and we put them on a big table. And then got a big piece of printer paper and wrote "for sale" on it. And we sat there in the corner, and we were selling toys to other kids, and parents stopped by, and we made probably like $10. It wasn't extravagant, but we made $10 out of nothing.
You guys understood the concept.
Yeah, you know, even at 10 years old, I knew I wanted money, and my mom was so pissed at me. She was pissed. She yelled at me. She's like, "Why were you selling stuff to strangers? Why were you selling your stuff to strangers?
Right.
That's not your stuff to sell." You know, she just went off on me, telling me all this kinds of stuff, and you know, I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that." But at the same time, it was just instinct for me. You know, I didn't think about it. I didn't hesitate. I didn't say, you know, I didn't think about. I knew I wanted money for something. My parents weren't going to give it to me. My parents didn't have it to give. So I was like, so how else am I going to get this money? And, you know, how am I going to do this?
Right.
And the first thing that came to mind is sell stuff, make money off of it.
Right. Well, for those of you that don't know, you know, right after Jacob and I met, we started some other smaller ventures, and one of them was a social media consulting agency. And what kind of solidified my entrepreneurial bug was the fact that my mom was pissed when she saw, you know, like, okay, you're working with people and you're trying to consult with people and make money.
So would you say your entrepreneurial bug kind of showed itself later in life?
Yeah, a lot later. But, and a lot of that comes from, you know, especially if you're an entrepreneur, not everyone's going to agree with what you're doing. As a matter of fact, it's going to be the direct opposite. You know, people are going to, you know, discourage you from doing what you're doing. And he knows this just as well as I do. My mom was very discouraging about the things that I was passionate about doing, even the smaller ventures that we were a part of, the social media consulting and the e-commerce companies. You know, you shouldn't be doing this at this age. You're too young. And, you know, there's a lot of people that need to realize that, you know, being young is more incentive to start
Yeah.
doing these things, and you're going to learn a lot more.
And see, and that's kind of, you know, Rob didn't find his bug till later in life. And for me, the bug was there since birth. I think, you know, it was always in me, and it was hard to fight. And that's, I think, you know, not to discredit school or anything, but I think that's why I did so poorly in school, just because, you know, I never didn't have that fire in me. You know, I didn't use it until probably 11 or 12, which is still very early in life, but I didn't use it until then, but I still felt it, you know what I mean? And it's like, once it started, you can't put it out.
You really can't.
And that's why I, you know, if you're an entrepreneur watching this and you're in high school, middle school, college, just know if you're not alone. I felt like that all of school, even elementary school. I felt miserable. I felt very outcasted. I felt very different. I felt very weird. I felt just different, and I hated it. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And it was very hard for me, especially since I went to at least 20 different schools by high school. You know, when I was done with high school, and it's just like, you know, you feel so outcasted because you feel so different, and your goals are different, your visions are different, your mind is different, you're wired different, and it's so hard to kind of get out of that bubble, and it's so, you feel so alone. And that's really what I felt all of public education that I was in. And, you know, let me tell you, it does get better. There's an end to the road. Once I got out of high school, and I've been out of high school for, you know, almost 3-4 years now, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I finally got out of that zone of those people and that mentality, and I finally got to be around like-minded people, and I finally got to find, you know, people like me, and you don't feel so alone. You know, there is people like us and you out there. It's just, you're not probably going to find them in your hometown, in your high school, in your community college, that kind of thing.
No, not at all.
You know?
I had so many groups that I could have joined in college. I mean, I only went and got through a year of college. That's all I completed. And, you know, despite all the groups that they offered, I couldn't find one person that had even close to the same mindset that I did, you know, that wanted to start a business, that wanted to learn more about business. I met Jacob through an Instagram group chat called the Young Billionaires. It was hosted by Caleb Maddox, who, for those of you who don't know, is a 14-year-old CEO of Kids for Success, New York Times bestselling author. And that group kind of diminished, but, you know, it's communities like that I guess, you know, people like us, you know, ventured out on their own to find someone, even if it's not in person. And after that, I mean, I actually ended up, you know, my mom was, again, very discouraging. And I moved out here, and we're roommates now. So, you know, we're starting eTast, and one very comparable thing to the whole, you know, loneliness of entrepreneurship is just through this whole experience of starting eTast right now. It's like a big dark tunnel, right? You start and everything looks good, you know, it's a tunnel, you can't really see the end, it may be a very short tunnel. It's very, very dark, and it's very, very lonely, but, you know, all tunnels end. So there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to keep that mentality, and the more you develop that mentality, the easier that journey's gonna be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's just like, you know, you go on Instagram, you follow any entrepreneur, they're flashing the cars, the watches, the houses, the planes, you know, any of that, it's great, and, you know, that's part of it. But that's not the start of it. That's not the middle of it. That's not the near end. That is the end. And that's what people don't seem to get. You know, everybody's trying to sell classes, or, you know, be a guru, or sell you their big secret that made them rich. You know, they're getting rich off making or telling you how to get rich. You know, all that MLM crap. It's just, you know, people think that you join a program, or you start this business, or you start Forex or stock trading, or you start drop shipping, or whatever the case may be, and you're going to be a millionaire overnight. And tomorrow morning you're going to wake up with 7 digits in your bank account, kind of thing. And that's not even close to the truth. It takes years upon years upon years upon years upon years, even decades sometimes. And that's the reality of it, is, you know, people like to show the end game because it's glamorous, it's cool, it's lavish, you know, it's everything you want in life. But in reality, you don't get that unless you bust your butt for, you know, 10 plus years, and you just give it everything you have, and you suffer, and you just give it everything, and you risk it all, you know. Obviously smart risk with thought, but you know, it's just a lot of sacrifice, and that's what's not really talked about. It's kind of something in the entrepreneur community no one focuses on, because it's not the pretty side of things. And you know, you can kind of look around, and you know, there's a lot of success in this world, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of everything, but not a lot of people are talking about what it took to get there. And unless you're born into it and it's handed to you, it's a tough journey to self-create it. Lots of sacrifice and lots of time and effort, you know. It takes 10,000 hours to master a craft, and a business is no different, you know. It takes more than that. You know, we could talk about our backstories forever, and how much we've sacrificed to get to where we are, and we're not even close to the top. And that's kind of just, you know, what we wanted to discuss today, is just entrepreneurship. It's not as glamorous as it seems. It is rewarding, it is fun. There's nothing in this world I'd rather be doing, but it, you know, it's not all Lambos and, you know, Range Rovers kind of thing. And you know, everybody has a story, I think, and everybody needs to share that story. You know, I've met a lot of people in this company, in my travels, in my moving on. You know, I've been to many places and countries, and in that, I've learned, you know, from janitor to a president, and everyone in between has a story. You know, you don't have to make $1 million a year, you don't have to make $100 a day, you don't have to make $1 a day to have a story, to have an experience that's taught you something. You know, just because you don't have money falling out of your pocket doesn't mean you're not able to teach the world something. And that's the truth, you know. Just because you're a high school student with a 2.0 GPA, or you're a high school dropout working for $8 an hour at a Subway, doesn't mean you're any less than that Verizon CEO making $15 million a year. You are the same species, you're the same breed, you're the same people. You just have to apply yourself, and you just have to make do with what you have. You know, Robert nor I were born into wealth. You know, Robert's dad is successful, but he hasn't spoken to his dad in over a decade. My parents were never wealthy people. You know, like I said, we've experienced bankruptcy multiple times in my childhood, and I still was able to create something for myself, and so was he. And you know, we're not billionaires, we're not wildly successful, but we're doing something, and we're applying ourselves, and we're not special, we're not unique. Anybody can do that. Anybody who applies themselves and puts the time in can do that. And that's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Is, you know, you might be, your IQ might be 80, your IQ might be 170, it doesn't matter. You know, everybody has qualities and talents that they possess. There's not a single person on this earth that doesn't hold one attribute or a talent that is useful or better than someone else's.
Absolutely.
And leverage that. You know, you might be a horrible public speaker, you know, sitting in front of the camera, sitting in front of people, claims you up, but you might be one of the best artists, you know, the world's ever seen, and you could sell your paintings for, you know, 100,000 a piece or something like that.
Right.
Or vice versa. You might be the most uncreative person in the world, but you get in front of a camera or a crowd of people, you can preach to them like nobody else, and you just got to find it. You know, I was very lucky and fortunate to find my talents and my abilities at my age that I did, but it was also due to a lot of self-perseverance and just trying a lot of different things. And I didn't have a lot of options at the time, being bankrupt and high school dropout. I didn't have a lot of choices, so I made choices for myself because I knew that's the only option I had.
I think everyone starts out in like a fog, right? You know, no one really knows what they're doing. They have kind of an idea of how things kind of go, and an example of that is, and he knows this, but I joined something called Digital Altitude, which was an MLM company, and what it put out was that wealth was so easily attainable. You know, in 90 days or less, you can make, you know, 90 grand a month, you know. So I joined, put close 4 or 5 grand into that company of mine, which wasn't even mine because, you know, I didn't own the legal rights to the company. But after going through that, $5,000 mistake, it was worth it just because it's, it showed me that, anything worth having you don't get it easily. But everyone starts off in the fog. I mean, I certainly did, and there was a time in Jacob's life where he was in the fog, and you find your way, and once you get out of that fog, you come to realize that there's so many erroneous notions that are going around in today's society about wealth and about life, and it needs to be fixed. And I think part of what we strive to do is kind of fill in the gaps. I mean, we can be honest, we're not going to really fully cover that. There's always going to be something, that people are spreading around that's completely untrue. But wealth is not easily attainable, and for those of you that are the entrepreneurs just starting your journey, it's a lot harder than what it looks, but it is rewarding. So don't look at what you see on Instagram with the nice cars and private jets and think it's not possible, because it is. It's just
a
lot of work.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of the forefront of it. Everybody, 99% of people start with nothing. There's a very few select 1% that start with the connections and the money and the resources needed to succeed. But if you're you or me, most likely you're not. If you are, good for you while you're watching this. But if you're the rest of us and you're not, you got to create something for yourself. And it's just like, I had a conversation with my brother, who's a bit younger than myself. I'm a very financially motivated person. I desire instability or stability in my life, and that makes me motivated towards money, because I can control my life that way. And I was having a conversation with my brother, and I was trying to help him find his motivation. And I said, "What are you motivated by?" And he says, "I'm not motivated by anything. I don't like money like you do. I don't like working like you do." And I said, "That doesn't matter." I said, don't you like having control over what you do? Don't you like being in control of what you do? Live where you want, do what you want, when you want, be your own boss kind of thing. And he said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "That's what money is. It's not about having a Lambo or having a Ferrari, living in a 30,000 square foot house. It's about having control of your own life and being the master of your destiny." And that's the reality of it. Is as nice as it would be as if everybody was driving Lambos and Ferraris and flying in private planes, it's not the reality. 1% of people actually do that. The other 99% just skate by. And that's what you got to think about is, yeah, it's okay to be the 99%, but control yourself if you're in the 99%. You don't have to be a millionaire, but at least control your life. Make your schedule, be with your kids, hang out with family and friends when you want to. If you want to take a vacation with your wife and kids, do it. If you want to, not go to work this week just because you're not feeling it, do it. That kind of stuff. Just, be in control of your life. And I think that's what the ultimate goal of entrepreneurship is money's great and all, but at the end of the day, if you can control your life, your schedule, you're not owned, your time isn't owned by someone else, that's the real reward,
Yeah.
Even if, you're living in a 2,000 square foot house and driving a Toyota Prius, what you control when you work, you control when you do what you do, you can go to wherever you want to go, you're still one.
It's freedom.
You're still running, yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. I mean, if you guys don't know us already, we could talk about this for hours and hours until we're like blue in the face, So, if you guys have any suggestions, you have any questions that you guys want to ask us, you guys want us to do a video on, this is our first real time doing like a legit video.
Yeah.
We're not film guys. We're not in entertainment at all. This is our first real YouTube video. So if you guys have any questions, bear with us. We're not the best vloggers, I guess, if you want to put it. Just leave a question in the comment section, and we'll be more than happy to answer it.
Yeah, or join us on our platform, etas.com. It's free mentorship platform. That's kind of our deal. You can directly connect with us on there and message us if you want to be mentored or help someone else. That's pretty much it from us today, guys. In the future, I'm going to be interviewing mentors that are from our platform and having discussions and interviews with them.